Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. In today's class, we'll cover part 2 of our Introduction to Internet Safety. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at si.sarah@4cls.org, or you can comment on this posting, or you can even call me now at the library, 563-1200. If I'm not there, just leave a message and I'll give you a call back as soon as I can. If you missed part 1 and you want to stop this now, that's fine. Just go ahead and pause this video and go to our Sydney Library Facebook page and look for part 1. If you can't find the link, you can always email me and I can send you the link that way as well. The information, there's a lot of information once again. I will be referring to notes. I want to remind you that I'm not an expert in this, but I do have some practical suggestions and things that can be very helpful to you. So let's get started. In our first class, we went over the topics on the left: choose strong passwords, practice safe browsing, keep your antivirus program up to date, don't use public Wi-Fi for sensitive stuff, don't interact with phishing and spam emails, back up your files, and avoid suspicious links. Again, if you missed that program and you want to go back, that's great. You can go ahead and pause this right now. The information that I covered in the first class, it's not critical for the second part, but it is important information as well. In today's class, we're going to be going over teach your children and teens to be safe. Now, if you're not a parent, you're a grandparent, you're welcome to give this information to your children or even your teen grandchildren. It might be a great thing for them to watch as well. The second thing we're going to cover is keep your devices secured, be careful who you meet, watch what you post, limit the amount of private information you make public, keep your privacy settings on, and breached, what now? Now, once again, I just want to remind you that I'm not an expert, but these are good tips if you ever have your data compromised. I would strongly recommend, though, that you look for a professional who can help you with this situation. So these are places to start, but they certainly are not exhaustive. All right, so let's get started. Teach your children and teens to be safe online. Can you guess the number one thing you need to do in order to help your children stay safe online? The best thing you can do to help your children is to start talking to them about internet safety as early as possible. You want to help them to understand that internet safety is an issue for everyone, not just for kids or teens, but for adults and for older folks as well. You want to be an active partner with your children as they go online. That means talking about websites that you go to. Strive to be an active partner with your children as they go online. Parental controls are great, but make sure that conversation is your number one defense, because parental controls can seem punitive to young people, and what you want most of all is to let them know that these kinds of things are designed to help them to stay safe, that you're not trying to punish them. You want to be an active partner with them as they go online. Also, don't stop having these open conversations until they're adults. A lot of children end up, at about 15 or 16, they end up online without any parental guidelines any longer. The partner relationship has ceased because we view that age group as being more capable, and that is true. But most parents, when they relax their vigilance, once a child reaches the age of 14, most missing children cases that began online involve children who are 15 or older. That means that right when we're kind of feeling like the kids have a good handle on things and know how to keep safe, that's actually the prime target age. So it's recommended that we continue these conversations until adulthood, until they're no longer under parental guidance. The open dialogue helps kids to feel safe and comfortable discussing any problems they may be having with someone online, and lets them know that if they make a mistake, they can come to you and be safe and be open. And that is the most important thing, because they won't necessarily know how to handle a situation. For instance, if one of their friends tells them they're suicidal, that can be a very disturbing thing online, even though these are online friends, perhaps it can be very disturbing and they won't know how to handle that. So when you have those open conversations, it makes it much easier for kids to know that they can come to you and feel like they can get help from you rather than wanting to hide things from you. Some important things to consider when your child uses the internet is that many teens will hide their browsing history or have accounts that you are completely unaware of. So again, you want to have that open relationship where you can talk to your kids about what they're doing and where they're going online. And make sure their privacy settings are in place for everything, everywhere they go. Some good guidelines to discuss with your children, making sure that they understand that everyone that uses the internet needs to follow these basic safety guidelines, are: don't give anyone your password, name, address, the name of your school, or any information about your family. Don't talk to strangers on the internet. I know that might seem silly and challenging because a lot of kids begin to view the people they meet online as friends. We do too as adults. If we don't know them necessarily, but maybe someone we know knows them, we're inclined to kind of think that it's safe. But just be careful. Help them to understand that the people online that they meet, they may in fact become friends at some point, but until they meet them face to face, they're not the same as friends that they have in person. All right, don't talk to strangers on the internet. Don't agree to meet anyone in person you met online. This is a good guideline for adults as well, and it sounds kind of cut and dried, but you want to have safety measures in place if you do choose to meet someone you have been talking to online. For teens or children, you want someone else there, an adult who would be like a chaperone, and even an adult who might meet someone online and wants to meet them in person. They need to put in place some safety measures as well, and I'll go over that a little bit later. Don't fill in a profile that asks for your name and address. Don't give too much information out. Don't visit a chat room without a parent's or guardian's permission. Chat rooms are more private, they're not as open, and they can be problematic. Don't stay online if you see something you think your parents or guardian won't like. Sometimes kids wander into sites where they see pictures or things that could be dangerous to them. Help them to know that it's important that they get out of that as quickly as possible. Don't post pictures of yourself without your parents' or guardian's permission. That's pretty important as well. Don't download or install anything on your computer without your parents' permission. Those downloads can also introduce viruses and malware into your computer, so that's a good thing to go over with teens and children. If you have any questions about something you read, ask your parent or guardian. So if something's confusing, maybe it's something about politics or a social situation that's going on right now that the teens and children come across as they're online, help them to know that it's important to discuss it with you as their adult, their safe adult in their lives. If you're talking to someone online and they make you uncomfortable, remember, you don't need to continue to talk to them. Sometimes bullies are online that prey on teens, and this can be a very serious situation. Help kids to know that they don't have to continue to interact with them. And if it's something even where they're approached to go on a date or to meet up with someone, again, help them to see that they don't need to continue those conversations. All right, let's go to the next slide. Remember, adults and children need to use the same precautions online they do when confronted by a stranger face to face. I know I moved on to the next slide, but I'm backing up just a little bit. If you watch the first program, here, let's go back. If you watch the first class, I talked to you about some things. I asked the question, if someone came to your house and wanted your banking information, would you give it to them? Well, the answer was no. So there are some other face-to-face things that kids need to know, like if a stranger came to your door and said, "Come on with me, I want you to run away with me," you would say no. You wouldn't open your door to something that looked dangerous if, and they need to know that. They need to remember those same things as well. We teach kids a lot about how to stay safe at home or how to stay safe as they're walking through town, let's say. But we don't necessarily teach them how to stay safe online. So also consider that privacy concerns, you want to keep their privacy settings in place, because sexual predators and identity theft are a big concern. Lots of dangers exist on the internet, and children and teenagers need supervision when using the internet, whether they are 5 or 15 years old, and adults need to remain attentive as well. All right, I won't go any further into that. If you have any questions, again, feel free to email me. Let's move on to keep your devices secure. Now, devices, I mean like phones or tablets. You want to make sure that your device is locked. And that means that you don't want just anybody to be able to pick up your phone or your tablet and access your email or your Facebook page or one of your other social media pages. You really need to have a strong password, or a locking device. Sometimes those can be facial recognition or a fingerprint scanner. It depends on your device's capabilities, but you want to make sure that that's on. I know it can be a hassle because it's just much easier to pick up your phone and go ahead and do whatever you want to do on social media. But it's important to do that. And like in any kind of internet or online searches, or when you're shopping online, you want to make sure that you have strong passwords in place. Have a strong password on your device. Don't make it something simple like 123, or when they want a pattern, make it a little bit complicated, and that will protect your device. It's just another measure of protection. You want to check that your phone's operating system, or called the OS often, that it's up to date. Just like with a regular computer, you want to make sure that your system is up to date. So go to About Phone or General and click System Updates or Software Updates. Sometimes you have to search a little bit, but it's probably in your system information. So you want to go to that and make sure it's up to date. Always connect to secure Wi-Fi. While free Wi-Fi can save us on data use, it's important to be wary of unsecured networks. That information can often be retrieved. There are ways to kind of sneak or trick your phone or your device into thinking that it's going to one Wi-Fi site, and in fact it's going to another one where your data is not secure. Some people even go so far as to encrypt your data. You can consider using a virtual private network, or VPN, which allows you to enjoy a secure Wi-Fi connection even on public networks because it encrypts your data. That's something you might want to do a little more research about. The VPNs are quite popular, but I haven't gone into much detail here. You also might want to install an antivirus software. Your smartphone holds a lot of data. If it's lost or stolen, everything on the phone is at risk. To protect your mobile phone data, you can encrypt it, and this information will then be unreadable to others. Most phones have encryption settings you can enable in the Settings or Security menu. Your device must have at least 80% power to proceed with setting up encryption, and it takes about an hour. Again, you can Google that, how to do that, or you can ask me for some help if you need it. I'm just kind of giving you some of the basics. I looked on my Kindle to see if that had encrypting settings, and it does, but again, as I said, you need to have at least 80% power to proceed with it, and the process takes about an hour. Your device can benefit from antivirus programs, so install antivirus software. which will help protect against viruses and hacking attempts, just like a regular computer. Always check your privacy settings. Each site or app that requires you to log in will have a setting menu. Look at each one and set them to a safety setting you are most comfortable with. One good one to turn off is the location tracker. Your phone, your devices, even in Facebook, there will be a location tracker or a way of tracking where you search or what kind of ads you look at. So it keeps, the data is, well, it's used by advertising, generally speaking, but it can also be a way for criminals to prey upon you. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So in this section, we're going to talk about be careful who you meet. There's something called romance scams or catfishing scams. A romance scam involves an individual being conned by someone pretending to be their romantic partner. The scammer will create a fictitious profile and reach out to others online. They'll slowly talk to their victim, building trust and a relationship. Eventually, they will ask for money for basic needs and other small things, slowly conning their victims out of their money. This is actually a pretty common thing, and it's in my mind quite serious. Romance scams are an effective scam that people of all ages fall for. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. I know someone who had an online friend they had never met. As their friendship grew over time, they would chat every day. At one point, this friend told them that they were in a very dangerous and abusive relationship. The information about how bad the situation wasn't shared all the time, so, periodically it would seem very alarming, especially when the person spoke of suicide. This friend eventually said they needed money to get far away from the situation and that so far a few friends had helped them out, but it wasn't enough money and they needed to get away immediately, implying that they wanted the money from their online friend right away. Now, I know that story doesn't sound all that alarming, but this happened between teenagers. And it can be really alarming for a teenager when these kinds of conversations happen. It also happens to adults and to older folks, people who are looking for new relationships or, perhaps after a divorce or a spouse dies, they're going online and going to some dating sites. Just be careful. Some of the warning signs to look for, one of the big ones is if the person refuses to talk on the phone or won't provide a profile photo, or if that photo looks kind of unbelievable, like maybe it was a headshot or something done by a professional, or maybe they look too young in it, or if they refuse to meet you face to face, either through Skype or FaceTime or one of those Facebook Live or any of those things. That's a real red flag if they won't meet face to face. Also, if the relationship gets too serious too fast, their social media profiles are newly created, or every interaction starts with an excuse. Just don't let your heart get ahead of you, is all I can say. Just be careful. Don't be swayed by stories of personal tragedy or requests for money to visit unless you are positive you know this person and their intentions are good. When meeting a person you met on a website or a friend you met online, choose a public place to meet and let a friend or family member know where you are going and who you are meeting. You can even have some kind of a plan where your friend calls you, and if there's a problem, there's a code word that you say. It's just important to stay safe. Be in public, go to a restaurant. I know someone who met someone at the library and asked me to keep an eye out. That was a little unusual, but that's not necessarily a bad plan. And remember that anyone you meet online may not be who they claim to be. So you don't really know them, and you want to be careful. Another thing that I know of is another person who was contacted via a text message. So it's not always through email or social media, but sometimes through text message from a supposed family member saying they were in trouble, in terrible trouble, and needed help right away. The family member was in the area of a crime and had been arrested and put in jail. It was circumstantial, they said. The text said that they needed cash to post bail and to hire a lawyer. Sadly, the recipient of the text message responded by following the directions and given by the text message and sending the money. In this case, the scam was revealed and the money was returned, but I know of others where they just lose that money. Often this can be something called a grandparent scam, where a grandparent will be contacted that one of their grandchildren is in a very dangerous situation and needs money right away, but they don't want their parents to know about it. I think probably that's the biggest red flag, is when the text message says, "Don't tell anyone." That's when you need to do some investigating and either try and call that grandchild or call their parents, track them down, go a little bit further so that you don't fall into that trap. Okay. Let's go on to watch what you post on social media. The internet can be an excellent way to find old friends, keep in touch with family, be an active part of the community, but always keep a few things in mind to make it a safe and positive experience. Everything you post is permanent. Once information goes on the internet, it is difficult, if not impossible, to remove. In some instances, the information or photos may even be captured via screenshot and used by others on their site, and it can take moments. You may even delete a post, but it stays in the servers and might have been seen and saved by someone else already. Be careful what information you share. Limit the details about your work history. LinkedIn is a popular site for social networking and business interests, but work-related information can be used by hackers or can be used for identity theft. So you want to be careful of that. Make sure you personally know everyone you accept into your social network. So don't just, accept random strangers. You want to make sure that you know them. Be careful of overfriending. It can be exciting to gain new friends or followers on a social networking site. High numbers of friends can be problematic because some of these friends may be introducing spam to your timeline or may have criminal intentions. Choose people you actually are friends with. Once you set up a friend, let's say in Facebook, once you set up your friend, all those that you're friends with, and let's say Susie asks for a friend request or makes a friend request and you accept her, and then several months later you get another friend request from her. It's possible that her account has been hacked. So what you need to do is call your friend and make sure that they didn't need to change their profile for some reason. Just don't accept it, especially if you already have them as a friend. Choose people who are actually friends with you. Make sure you feel good about being associated with anything you say online, and be sure not to post anything that you wouldn't want to share with the world. Think before you post. Whether it is a picture, video, or comment, be sure not to post anything you would not want to share with the world. Even if you're using privacy settings, there is always the chance that your post can be copied and shared by others. And keep it civil. When sharing your views and opinions, don't enter into arguments and always report cyberbullying. Also, use social media privacy settings to restrict access to your posts to the people you trust with personal information. All of this can be found, all of these settings can be found just in the settings area of your social media site, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or any of the other ones. Okay. Again, if you have any more questions, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. So limit the amount of private information you make public. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that listing your phone number and email address on your social media page makes sense? Well, it might make sense because it would make it easier for your friends to contact you. But ask yourself if you would give out your phone number and email address to everyone at the grocery store. What about every store in your hometown? Because that's what you're effectively doing by posting it online. Even if you have your privacy settings in place, sometimes that information can be, a person can do a screenshot and have that information. What about social media is a great way to let folks know what you are doing and where you are going, right? Well, it does make sense, and it is fun to be able to update people on the things that you're doing. But, the information you share publicly can be used by others. For the sake of personal safety, you should not share your date or place of birth, your home address or phone number, and you also don't want to share where you've gone or that you might be going on vacation. Ask yourself if you would be willing to put up a sign in every bus or subway station in your state telling folks where you like to eat and how often you go out or when you'll be out of town. These are popular things that I often see on Facebook, where people will post having dinner at such and so. The problem with this is that 80% of robbers now check social media when planning a theft. So if you post that you're going on vacation or you are away on vacation and you post photos and it's so much fun and people really enjoy seeing it, just wait till you get home, because sometimes that can open you up for somebody coming to your home and breaking in. It is fun. Sorry about that. It is fun to fill in those quizzes on social media and ask your friends to join in the fun. The problem with filling in those quizzes is that they might be entertaining, but they often provide too much information about you. Think of that information spreading outward like ripples in the water, where everybody starts to know those things about you. That can be an effective tool for someone who is looking to scam you or steal your identity. When I joined Facebook, I had a great time filling out the About Me section. I think they ask your favorite music, if you're married, where you live, when your birthday is. I would recommend putting as little information in there as possible. Again, it is a lot of fun to fill in all the details on your social media profile, but it is best to leave most of that blank because you don't want everybody to have access to that information. All right, keep your privacy settings on. When on social media, make sure that your profiles are set to private so that only people you trust can see what you post. Do not add anyone to your friends list who you don't know. Or if you receive duplicate friend requests, like I said before, from someone who is already on your friend list, don't go ahead and friend them. Check first. Every computer and device has settings options, and email, apps, and social media sites do too. Look for your settings, usually a gear, and open up the settings window. Look through all of the options that are available. I put on this slide a couple of places to go to help you find your privacy settings. One is a really great site that I enjoy going through and taking their classes. It's edu.gcfglobal.org. And on there, if you look up Facebook privacy settings, you'll find you will find information about how to set your privacy settings. And the other one is www.connectsafely.org. They have quick guides that are really helpful because it's for like Instagram, and I think there are some quick guides for things like Minecraft for kids and that kind of thing that tell you how to keep safe on those sites. You also want to use two-factor identification. These days it's pretty par for the course. You need to have a phone in order to receive an email or text, or even a phone call when you're signing up for an app or a new social media site. If you try to sign into a site or app from an unknown device, you'll get a code sent to your phone, which you have to type in to gain access. This greatly reduces the chances of someone remotely accessing your account, So it's a really good idea. You also want to turn off your location finder. Again, I mentioned that earlier. I'm repeating it here because it really is important. You don't want people tracking where you're going. Okay. You can turn off your location finder on your phone, laptop, and tablet. You can also turn it off within apps. You can also turn off ad tracking in your apps. I know that Facebook has started to put a bunch of ads in on their newsfeed, and you can tailor those so that they can't track what you're interested in. You still get ads, but they're not based on data that they have retrieved about you. Another one is, and not everyone has this, but Bluetooth. In our house, we have a couple of Bluetooth speakers, and I know some people have them in their cars, as well as they have a portable Bluetooth system. You want to make sure that that's turned off when you're not using it. Now, this is something interesting that I learned because I don't personally have Bluetooth, except for, as I said, on those speakers. There are things called blue bugging, which can result in unwanted spam, blue jacking, which endangers your private information, blue snarfing, which can cause loss of control over your device. So if you turn off the Bluetooth when you're not using it, it'll be a lot safer for you. They do have flaws, there's security flaws in Bluetooth, so it's something to keep an eye on. Perhaps as time goes on, they'll work out all those bugs. I know they have been working on it, and it won't be quite as susceptible to these things, but for now, it's a good idea to just keep them turned off if you're not using it. You also want to set your devices to forget Wi-Fi networks. This might seem like a bit of a hassle, but what happens is if you go to a restaurant and you sign into their website, their Wi-Fi, and you do some searching, that's fine. But you don't want to automatically connect to their network, their open networks, because they're not secure. And without your knowing it, your device, your phone or your tablet, can connect automatically, and that is then prey to someone who has put in a dummy Wi-Fi account that will trick your device into signing into their network. So set your devices to forget Wi-Fi networks. Many devices are set by default to automatically reconnect to familiar Wi-Fi networks, and it does seem convenient to allow that to happen, but cyber criminals can set up fake Wi-Fi networks to confuse your device and trick it into connecting to their fake network. All right, and this is the last one. It's called breached. Now what? This can be really distressing for folks, and you need to stay calm. It is very distressing. You don't want anything, any private information stolen. But if it does happen, there are some things that you can do. First of all, determine what was stolen, if possible. So check your bank account history for discrepancies. Check your credit report to see if any credit cards or loans have been taken out in your name. Calculate how much you have lost financially. You want to also file a police report. You want to contact your credit reporting companies and file a fraud report. So you want to do that to Equifax Alerts, Experian Fraud Center, and TransUnion Fraud Alert. You want to change all your passwords. So on every device that you have, on your home computer, and also in your apps and on your social media. You want to change all of those passwords. You want to run a virus scan on your computer and look for suspicious programs through the control panel and manually erase them. You can freeze your accounts and credit reports, and you need to seek professional assistance. That's the number one thing, because it can be overwhelming what you need to do in order to protect yourself once this has happened, so that nothing more happens. Also, filing a police report is important. All right. I hope that this class has answered some of your other questions. And if I have left anything out that you are really interested in knowing about, You're welcome again to email me or call me, and I'll do my best to get some information for you. This is a large topic and it can be overwhelming. Feel free to go back and rewatch parts of this, take notes, whatever helps you. All right? And most of all, don't be overwhelmed. Just do your best to stay as safe as possible. All right, you take care, and I'll see you in the next class. Our next class is going to be an introduction to Microsoft Excel, and the first one it'll be split up into 2 parts again. So the next month of July will be those 2 classes. Alrighty, take care.